welcome to Highway. On this Palm Sunday, we're in the New Forest, which actually is neither new nor really a forest. It's an ancient mixture of woodland, open heath and grassland, where thousands of ponies, donkeys and cattle are allowed to graze quite freely. All these animals have owners, known as commoners, who have grazing rights dating back 900 years. The laws and traditions are kept alive here in the Verderers' Court in Lyndhurst, which is the oldest court in England. Later in the programme, I shall find out more about the work of the Verderers. First, an even older story has been acted out here in another part of the New Forest at Boulder Parish Church. Palm Sunday is the day we celebrate the entry of Jesus Christ into Jerusalem, riding on the back of a donkey. Today we join the children of the local William Gilpin School, Pandora the Donkey, and the Boscombe Salvation Army Band. 'The service is led by the Vicar of Boulder, the Reverend William Gilpin. Thousand years after Christ entered Jerusalem, William the Conqueror invaded Britain. The New Forest was given its name by him, and this tapestry, embroidered by more than 60 needlewomen, commemorates its 900th anniversary. King William designated the area as a royal hunting reserve and created unpopular laws to protect the deer. The people of the New Forest were given rights to graze their livestock, but for harming the royal deer, there were severe punishments, including death. Once responsible for executing those draconian laws 900 years ago, the Verderers' Court has changed with the times. It is now the major forum for the protection of New Forest life.
Oh yea, oh yea, oh yea, all manner of persons who have any presentment to make,
a session of the court is opened every 2 months by Brian Ingram,
let them come
Chief
forward,
Magister.
and they shall be heard. God save the Queen.
4 registers are employed full-time to ride the forest and look after the grazing animals. They're on call 24 hours a day to take care of animals injured on the roads. The Verderers are the magistrates of the court. 5 are appointed by government bodies and 5 are elected by commoners. With me now is Maldwyn Drummond, who was a Verderer for many years. Why do you think it is that a medieval system like this still survives?
Well, I think it is, in fact, the ponies. They've been the thin red line that have run through since the days of William the Conqueror, because he had to live with the commoners of the forest, and so he accepted them being here, and the system has revolved round them.
How do they know which animal belongs to whom?
The commoners know, and the agisters certainly know, and of course they are marked in various ways.
How do you cope with the thousands of motorists that go through the forest?
Well, in the early 70s we had this conservation plan which stopped people driving all over the forest, and indeed a courting couple were run over a half a mile from a road, you see. Well, so we put ditches and things like that down alongside the road and prevented the motor car, and that's really the key, to keep the motor car on the road. People, of course, can wander where they like.
Of course, you've also dropped the speed limit as an experiment, haven't you?
Yes, we're doing an experiment in the north of the forest with a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, and that's cut both animal accidents and ordinary accidents.
That's a lesson, isn't it?
It is. Speed really does kill.
These gardens at Exbury, on the edge of the New Forest, took 20 years to create out of typical New Forest woodland by Lionel de Rothschild earlier this century. Alas, my love, you do me discourteously, and I have loved you so long, delighting in your company. Green sleeves was all my joy, green sleeves was my delight. Green sleeves was my heart of gold, and who but my lady green sleeves? I have been ready at your hand to grant whatever you would crave. I have both waged life and land. Your love and good will for to have. Green sleeves was all my joy, green sleeves was my delight. Green sleeves was my heart of gold, and who but my lady green sleeves? Most of the New Forest is a natural habitat threatened only by man. Fortunately, as the pressure increases, so does our awareness of nature's secret life. This we owe to the work of wildlife photographers like Eric Ashby, who pioneered the filming of animals at their most relaxed and intimate times. Eric and his wife Eileen have fought tirelessly for the protection of the New Forest. Hello, Tessa. Some benefactors of these rescued foxes, now cared for in a sanctuary in their gardens.
We've got one, Jilly, who's been out in the wild now for almost 3 years. First, when we let her out, we noticed down the field that she'd got 2 very bad legs. She could hardly walk. And then, following that, we saw that a fox was trying to get into one of the runs here. We suspected it could be Jilly. So we left that door open, didn't we? And she came back and we found her fast asleep in our old house. Because there's nothing like your own bed when you feel poorly, is there? Now, Tiger, he was a real character. And he not only came back to visit us, but he insisted on coming back to play with his old friends in the run.
Did he?
Yeah. One of his greatest pleasures was to come and play with the fallow deer on the field most evenings.
A fox?
Played with the fallow deer.
Yes.
We used to love watching him do that. If the fallow deer weren't there, then he played with us.
I could stroke him, pick him up, play with him, play ball with him,
Yes.
And he used to follow you around the garden, hadn't he?
with a wheelbarrow.
With great interest. In fact, we called him the undergardener. When Vicky, last year, looked as though she was expecting the patter of tiny paws, we were delighted. But it all went rather wrong, because instead of having her family in her nice cosy box, she decided to have them underground. And on the coldest, dampest, wettest night, a strong wind blowing straight down the earth, and the little ones got chilled. There were 4 of them. But fortunately, we were able, weren't we, to rescue them. And then have one indoors. And of course it meant she had to be fed every 2 or 3 hours. But it was...
Sleepless nights.
Sleepless nights, that's right. But it was well worth it, because it was such a thrill to be able to follow her progress day by day.
You're a great expert in wildlife photography. How do you get such intimate shots?
Well, it's only by basically being very interested in your subject and willing to wait and wait and wait.
It's patience then,
It's
is it?
patience, yes. But anybody's patient with what they're interested in. I couldn't knit all day. The badgers that I filmed in the artificial set are perfectly wild. If they do have a sniff of human scent, they're gone. So it's a case of getting them used to electric light. And I started at 15 watt, but that was too strong. They backed away.
Today.
So I had to start with 5 watt and leave that on for about a week, and then move up and up and up. Till at last I was filming at 1,000 watt.
Really?
Yes. The New Forest is such a wonderful place. It's unique. and yet it's not properly protected. You have to consider that millions of people visit the forest, and there's so much disturbance. There's a lot of birds that used to nest when I was here. They just disappeared. And these are rare birds, of course.
It's our heritage, isn't it?
It is our heritage.
Now, you may have noticed the harp which accompanied me in Greensleeves. It was played by Susan Drake, and here she is to play Song of May by Hasselmans. Just over a year ago, I visited a Christian healing centre at Burswood on the Kent-Sussex border, where I met a lady who was critically ill. Jenny recently
How did you come to Burswood?
had been confined to a wheelchair,
Well, I'd been in
paralysed
hospital
for
for
8
several
years
months,
because of a
and
fatal
I
and
couldn't
incurable
really go
disease
straight
called
home, not to a house
encephalitis.
full of small children.
She told me how
I
at the
came
beginning of her
here.
illness, she tried to go for a walk and fell helplessly in the mud. She felt that God was speaking to her through her pain and anger.
And I just said, my life is a mess, but I can't manage it any longer. Come into the middle of it with me and take control. And he did do that. He changed everything. I didn't get healed physically, but I got healed on the inside, which actually I think is more important.
Imagine how I felt when I heard she was better and well enough to join me for a walk in the New Forest. Jenny.
Hi.
It's lovely. I can't believe it. On your own 2 feet.
It's lovely.
It's a wonderful thing to happen,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. Tell us, how did it happen?
Well, after we met on Highway before, lots of viewers wrote to me, said they were praying for me. I believe lots of people were. And I began to have this strong conviction that God was going to make me completely well. I got so excited. 3 months I waited, and every time the doorbell went, I used to think the person was coming. But I used to think what sort of person it would be too. Thought it would have to be a vicar or a bishop, but it wasn't. And after 3 months in June, I had to go and speak at a big church near Guildford. I was giving my talk in the front in the wheelchair, and suddenly in the front row, an ordinary young mum just stood up, and she said she didn't know why she was saying it, but she felt God wanted her to say I was going to get well. And I knew it was the person I've been waiting for. So at the end, I sort of pushed myself over with a wheelchair to her, and I said, would you pray for me? And she said, no. She wouldn't, because she said, well, she'd only just become a Christian, see? And she'd started to come to church, and she'd made all sorts of mistakes in her life. And although she knew God had forgiven her, she didn't think she'd ever be worthy to be used by him. So I had an awful job to get her to pray for me. But in the end she did. She prayed such a simple, short little prayer really, just asking God to make me well, and I knew I was. I got straight up out of the wheelchair without any pain, and I never sat back in it again.
Well, how did your family and friends react to it?
It did wonders for my marriage.
Did it?
Yes, it's lovely to be a real mum for my kids. But the neighbours were a bit startled. Because they were so used to me buzzing around the streets in my electric wheelchair, and then all of a sudden I was jogging. People used to run out of the houses and shops and say, "Is it really you? Or have you got a twin sister?" But I think just some people found it quite hard. The people who'd cared for me, looked after me, it was difficult for them to realise I didn't need them anymore. And some people found it quite spooky.
I bet they did,
Yes, they sort of, it's not really very comfortable to think God could still do surprising things nowadays. Easy to keep him in a box marked history. And it also makes me very mad when people think it's because I've got lots of faith that I got better. And actually, it takes far more faith to go on trusting God sitting in a wheelchair than ever it is to walk away from one.
So what are your plans for the future?
Oh, I'm going to walk the Pennine Way.
Climb Everest or
Yeah,
something?
I think I'll take the dog with me though. But one good thing about being disabled was that I started to write books. That gave me something to live for.
Yes.
It's a habit I can't kick now. So I'm writing a book now about what it really feels like to be disabled. But I hope it would reassure people too that, you see, God's done some pretty lovely things for me in the last 8 years, on the inside and now on the outside. I'd love to tell people he really is upstairs there, and he does hear us when we shout to him for help.
Anyway, how about a walk in the forest? My arm.
Thank you.
As Jenny continues to thank God for her healing, 15-year-old Teilhard Scott from the New Forest brings us an arrangement of Now Thank We All Our God by Siegfried Carl Elliott on the organ of the Parish Church of Lymington. It's hard to believe that the Bewley River in the New Forest was once the site of a thriving shipbuilding industry. Having once provided shelter for the Royal Hunt, by the 18th century the forest had become the source of top quality oak for the Royal Navy. Nelson's flagship, Agamemnon, was built here with 2,000 mature oak trees and launched in 1781. These cottages housed the men who built her. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Chitty brought us here to Buckley's Hard because those old timber ships are close to his heart.
There is the wreck of the Mary Rose. It has come to the surface.
Wonderful moment. You hear all the sirens ringing, and I should think probably the Navy will get in on the act. It has.
The gun has gone off at Southsea. This historic moment as the Mary Rose comes to the surface.
They got rid of me rather quickly, and I found myself totally unemployable in the British Army until I found a place just up the road in Marchwood, which was the diving school. I involved the school with about 60 Army divers, and the Ministry of Defence heard about it later. At one stage, you may remember, there was an awful crunch.
The massive crane of Togmore is lifting the vessel further.
Colonel Chitty, what's happened there?
It would look as though the leg on the right, something has given there. The worst moment, and I've seen the playback 3 times, is when it crunched down, and I don't know, I could have died. I'm a great believer in like all servicemen, in moments of acute panic, you throw one up.
Yes.
It's all based really on the old Psalm 107, when you cried unto the Lord in your trouble, and he relieved you from your distress. Once when I was really training, night operation, and being Sir, I knew it all, and I was running out of air, and I thought, well, I'll just finish this task. But to get to it, I had to get rid of my lifeline. Two crass, stupid things to do, but I knew better. And naturally, of course, I ran out of air at the same time. I couldn't find my lifeline again, and I drifted off downstream into the darkness. Next stop, the Nab lighthouse, and thought there must be somewhere, so I threw one up. And there was an angel of sorts wearing the rank of Staff Sergeant who realised the Colonel was going to do something damn silly. And so he was keeping an eye open, but that's one of the many instances when really I was a goner.
I know you're a lay reader at Boulder Church, but you also sing.
Yes, it's something I've meant to do for years, since I first was introduced to Compline. And we are singing the Negro spiritual, Were You There When You Crucified Me, which is very fit and proper for Palm Sunday.
In another corner of the New Forest, in Avon Tyrrell, a fortune centre for riding film.
What here is going to tell us how tall she is?
You have to
look at that.
Look at numbers.
It's a place where the love of horses can bring healing and help to young people with learning difficulties. The director is Jennifer Dixon Clegg. Jennifer, you call the young people who come here horse motivated. What do you mean by that?
I mean that they are prepared and even longing to do anything in order to be with horses. And of course, for most of them, that's probably the only time in their lives that they've ever been in that position. They lie in bed in the morning, a lot of them, and don't like to get up for nothing or nobody, but for a horse they will. Consequently, they're put in an environment where they want to learn, want to be there, and they're not in a position where they're made to be there, which of course is very conducive to their development.
Does every young person respond to this treatment?
No, not at all, and I think that's very important to say, that unless people are horse motivated, then it's the wrong thing for them, and they may well be motivated by something else. But for those that are motivated by horses, it seems to be a very successful medium indeed in teaching them the things that perhaps they've missed along the line. We want
when
to
you
go
get to
training riding therapists.
Glenda, I want you to turn down the centre line. No, go to F first. Go to F. Make him go there.
They're
Good
also
girl.
trained in the use of the horse to help people to read, to write, in their social skills, their independent skills.
When you get to A,
so we're teaching
we're going
people
to
to combine
turn down
all
the
those.
centre line. Let's have you in quite a small circle round me, please. Well done. Wendy, what's your number?
I think there's a tremendous sense of sort of love, if you like, in the place, and we really want the students to succeed. We assure them they can, and through this tremendous rapport they develop with the horses, so they do with the staff. We take people who have been needy and make them into people that are needed, people that have been
I want your legs
non-learners
really high,
and help them to become
really
learners.
close together.
And it actually inspires
Get as
self-confidence in
tall as
themselves because they see the effect and the direct
Just wait a
effect
moment.
they're having on their ability to care for and control a live animal, and actually quite a big live animal that's unpredictable.
There's something special about the relationship
Come
between
back
horse and
behind me
rider,
again.
which brings us back to Palm Sunday, the donkey which bore Jesus Christ into Jerusalem. Here is Robert Hardy in Boulder Church reading The Donkey by G.K. Chesterton.
When fishes flew and forests walked, and figs grew upon thorn, some moment when the moon was blood, then surely I was born. With monstrous head and sickening cry, and ears like errant wings, the devil's walking parody on all four-footed things, the tattered outlaw of the earth of ancient crooked will. Starve, scourge, deride me, I am dumb, I keep my secret still. Fools, for I also had my hour, one far fierce hour and sweet. There was a shout about my ears and palms before my feet.
Bless, O Lord, these branches of palm to those who receive them, that both now and in the days to come they may be a memorial of your death on the cross and a pledge of your victory over sin and death, for the glory of your name. Amen.
Tonight, we've all shared in a miracle of faith. At a time of little hope, Jenny Rees-Larker was able to walk again. And a miracle of faith, of course, is what we shall be celebrating next Sunday, Easter Sunday, when I wake up from Harrogate.